everybody. Alright, so for today, we're going to be doing a little bit of a different video. In particular, I ended up going over and recording myself reading the object template in the MC and D hub. The reason why I did that is due to the fact that we pretty much, I think, if you're into the SCP universe, know the foundation template and the basics on how to do that. Well, not how to do it, but like the basics on what it is. As a result, one of the things that we are going to be reading in the future, near future, has a MC and D template, so just hopefully this will help add more context to stuff. Also, there are certain details about MC and D that weren't explicitly said, at least through some of the stuff that I read. So, yeah. Hope you guys enjoy.
General notes. When writing an item for Marshal, Carter, and Dark, it is important to keep in mind the goals of doing so. For example, the goal of an SCP object is typically to spend the most time explaining, in precise and scientific detail, what the item appears to be, how anomalous it is, and so on. They spend the most time describing the item. To use another example, the Are We Cool Yet object template is designed to explain the motivations behind the creation of a particular piece. For a Marshal, Carter, and Dark object, the purpose is to tell a story. To the MC and D, the most important part of an object is who has it, keeping track of every object as it changes hands. Unlike the Foundation, a lot of MC and D files are on objects they don't currently own, and are instead keeping track of where they are and how they are being used. Perhaps most importantly, their documentation may include other GOIs, objects, templates. To illustrate this, consider an art piece from Are We Cool Yet, which was then bought by MC&D, sent off to Prometheus Labs for analysis, then sold to the Chaos Insurgency, and in turn lost a skirmish to the GOC. The MC&D documentation may therefore contain all relevant information. The Are We Cool Yet project proposal, a Prometheus Labs analysis report, reports of its purchase and subsequent sale, the Chaos Insurgency plans for using the item, and then the GOC report on the conflict which resulted in its recovery, and its subsequent internal documentation from them. In an MC&D item, the description of the item is much smaller than in other objects. It should, in total, be under 4 sentences long, inclusive of any containment requirements. This does not need to be the only time that you describe it, though. There may be a long spiel on the object as a description for sale. MC and D humanoids are typically not kept in cells, as is often done in Foundation, instead being kept in drug-induced comas and fed via tube. MC and D have no equivalent of the Foundation's ethics committee, and as a primary results-oriented group, their handling of objects should reflect efficiency without regard of the self-determination of their sentient wares. On the other hand, they highly value both their own personnel and their customers, and take every step to ensure their safety. MC and D objects are always referred to as items in the documentation. Pronouns such as object or subject are to not be used. Theme. To use MC&D custom theme, put the following at the top of your page, and that's that thing. A variant of the MC&D still exists with gray colors. Here's one that I can show you, actually. See? Which it looks like there's more stuff that you can use to do all that. You can do research on that with your own stuff. I'm not going into that myself. Regardless, let's go back to the thing. Let's see. Where are we? We're in the wrong spot, aren't we? Okay, there we go. Alrighty. The second variant of MC&D custom theme exists designed to work with the back highlighter variant theme. To use this theme, put the following on the top of your page, which I'm not going to click that. You guys can figure that crap out on your own. Okay, so this is basically the header. We're going to go into it in just a second. Above the header should be used at the top of all objects. The following is a description of each criteria, so we're going to be going into that right now. So the thing with the XXXs is the file thing, which we're going to go into right now. File number in the above template, yada yada, is used as an identifier for the document. Each X should be replaced with a non-zero and non-unary digit or capital letter. For example, A valid identifier is IWN45-N30S8-4EGI5. The number 0 is not to be used in the identifier as it can be easily confused with the letter O in documentation. Similarly, 1 is not to be used as it can be easily mistaken with I. This numerical identifier is not used as an identifier for the item itself with SCP objects, but an identifier for the file. Items themselves are referred to by their identifier in daily business, see below, but within the documentation are only to be referred to as item or the item. Status. This refers to the current status of the item. The different classes mean as follows. In reserve, the item is owned by MC and D, but currently not for sale or rent. Selling, the item is owned by MC and D and is currently for sale. Sold, the item is no longer owned by MC and D and has been sold. This category should also include a subcategory of acquirable, unacquirable, destroyed, or unknown, parsed as sold, acquirable, sold, unacquirable, and so on. Renting, the item is owned by MC and D and is currently available for rent or being rented. Acquirable, the item is either owned by MC and D but not in its possession, as may be the case of the items currently undergoing analysis by external contractors, or not owned by MC and D but trivially capable of being requisitioned from its owner. Unacquirable, the item is not currently owned by MC and D and acquiring it would require sizable effort. Destroyed, the item has been destroyed. Unknown. The current status of the item is unknown and is either thus unacquired or destroyed. Demand. This is an approximation of the demand for the item. If an item can be easily sold at any time, it is rated high. If it is likely to find a buyer at auction, it is rated medium. Low items are unlikely to sell at auction and may have a very specific market. The none category is when the item is in no demand whatsoever. Demand categories can be combined as high, medium, or medium-low for approximations that span these ranges. Value. This is not the true monetary value of the item, but the price at which it can be sold or rented. It is given a range for unique or limited items, while items which are available via supply chain should have a specific stated cost per item. This should not be overly specific, with values stated to fewer than 3 significant figures. If the item is being rented, then this should be a fixed price to rent the item, either per hour or day. If the item is unsuitable for sale, then this row simply reads not for sale. Availability. This is the availability of the item. If it is none, then the item has been destroyed. A unique item is one of a kind. For example, subdued reality benders should always be unique. The category current inventory, numerical value, estimated numerical value, worldwide is self-explanatory, while established supply chains mean that MC&D can order in copies of the object on demand. Identifier. The identifier is a common name for the item. It is the name that is bought or sold under, the way that objects are commonly referred to in MC&D standard operating. This identifier must be unique and normally descriptive, except in the cases such as anart items, where the name of the piece is used. As stated above, this identifier is not to be used to refer to the item within the documentation. Description. The description section, quite simply, describes the item. This section should not describe anything to do with the current owner of the item, the creator of the item, or anything besides the pure description of the item in its current state. This includes a both physical description as well as a description of its anomalous properties. It should be as short as possible without omitting information. A rule of thumb is 4 sentences long. It is not necessary to be overly scientific with this description. Plain language explanations are more useful. Postscript. This is a simple postscript. It may be read Marshall, Carter, and Dark LD or Marshall, Carter, and Dark LD. For older reports and Marshall, Carter, and Dark LLP for newer ones, yada yada. Okay, so the following are 2 examples. So as you can see, there is an example with that. It is the bonbons. If you want to look at this, you can pause. I'm just going to keep going. Compulsory subsections. For the header, the following subsections must be included. There should be only one of each of these subsections. Okay, so we have the initial report. The subsection, which should normally begin your article, should be a brief summary of how the object first came to the attention of MC and D. Important. Dates must always be in the format of month, day, year, as below, to prevent confusion with the American/international dating systems. So as you can see, there's the author, full name, date, month, day, year, interest, medium, high, low, none, identifier, and identifying name. How did MC and D first find this item? This is the place where you should detail that particular event as either a first-person description from the perspective of the author or as a third-person overview of the event. Of important note, it is the line break code within tables where an underscore must be used at the end of any line rather than simply pressing enter within the editor. Thus, if you're copying MC&D document to Wikidot from an external word processor, it might need some editing via the page source to see how this works. You guys can go over and do research on that yourself. I am not going to fight with that. It is not my forte. Most of these should be explanatory. Interest is in the amount of interest that MC&D has in possessing the item, rather than any potential market interest. The identifier used here should be the same as the one used above, which I think we can sort of see some of that maybe? I don't know. We're going to go down. Tracking information/inventory information. Only one of either tracking information or inventory information is to be used for a given item. Tracking information is used for a unique or very limited item. Any time that the object changes hands should be logged here. This should be complete and up to date. Documentation should be similar to the following example. And as you can see, there is tracking information with the owners, the dates, and the comments. Y'all can stop and read that yourself. I am not going to. Okay. For the items, which there are multiple instances or where there are established supply chains, inventory information is used instead. These should be formatted like the following example of the documentation for Dr. Win Entertainment's Bubble Bath Bonbons. So as you can see, okay, additional subsections. The following subsections can be used multiple times after the compulsory subsections as required. Okay, so we have rental records. This section should document a sample period over which the item was rented, to whom, and the comments regarding what they did with it for the duration of its renting. So as you can see, we got the name, the date, the period, so how long they had it, comments for what is going on. Okay, auction records. If the item is unique and has been sold, this subsection should detail an auction for it, as well as all bidders on the object. It should also include the description provided to the purchasers of the listing. For the listing. This description should be different from the description in the header. The purpose of this one is to sell to a target market. So as you can see, the date, the location, the auctioneer, the lot, and then we have the listing and over-the-top description of the item, aim of which is to entice people who are potential buyers into purchasing the object. This can be as long as you desire, or rather as long as makes sense. The previous 4-sentence rule can be safely ignored. You should describe the properties of the object, but are free to hide details which would detract from its sellability, such as potential negative effects. It should conclude with the following sentence, or some variation on the warning. Marshall, Carter, and Dark LLP takes no responsibility for the misuse of the item. And then, as you can see, they have like the names, yada yada yada, and how much they spent or they were going to spend on it. Sale records. If the item is part of an established supply chain or a large stockpile are owned, then items are sold at a fixed price on demand, depending on the time period that the item has been being sold for. This section should track either monthly or yearly sale records for the item, along with comments on any particular abnormalities in sales numbers. While MC&D retains details of every sale, it would be boring both to write and read through. It is recommended no more than 2 years or 2 decades of records should be in one of these sections. The following is a sample documentation on the format that should be used again for the example of Dr. Wenenheimen's bubble bath bonbons. So as you can see. Okay, incident reports. Incident reports are used by MC&D for any notable events surrounding the item. They are internal documents only written by MC&D personnel. So as you can see, the incident report, yada yada, author, full name, date, month, day, year, and then the bottom part. Within this box, you should completely detail the event from either the perspective of the author or as a third person recounting the events. Any and all important events before, during, and after the incident should be recorded here. As before, use underscores for the next lines. And then we have internal memos, short messages between MC and D employees. And as you can see, there's a special format for that. The sender is Amos Marshall, recipient Rubric Carter, and then it goes into like a little thing and says a short memo from one person to another should be included here, perhaps thoughts on the marketability of the item, negotiations with the supplier, or anything else that would be relevant enough to include in the file. Always use underscores for line breaks. Then we go down to external documents. Documents on the item which are not written by MC&D, instead having been acquired from another group of interests, or GOI, should be included as external documents. And as you can see, we got the external reports, organization, group of interest, required month, day, year, method of acquisition, brief explanation of how MC&D acquired the document, potentially referring to the attached incident report in which it was recovered. The document within this box reproduce the external document in full, as always, and every line with an underscore to make sure it formats correctly in the table. Okay, chat logs, transcribed messages or similar, who was sending the message / who is receiving, records from month, day, year, time started through time, ended, military time, which is kind of interesting. And as you can see, the time, user, message, and it just keeps going. Alrighty. It also has like an end log at the bottom part, kind of interesting. Okay, custom subsections. If it makes sense for a subsection not in these examples subsections to be used, you are free to design your own. Should have the same format as follows, with content modified to suit. And as you can see, custom subsection, the numbers, the content, if your custom subsection should be included here, feel free to subdivide the table as you see fit. Do not remove the file number or the postscript. And as you can see, there's the bottom part. And that's pretty much it. I hope some of this sort of helped. I hope it was kind of useful to go over this. The reason why I wanted to go over it, I don't know if I said it before or if it made it through. I just wanted to give more context for MC&D and get more information on certain things because, like I said, I'm going to be going over it. I'm going to be reading one of these documents, and only after I read everything and recorded it did I end up reading this. So anyways, I hope you're having an amazing day, night, whatever it is. Hopefully I will see you in another video.